Welcome to the AMA with, I'm Michael McBride from GitLab. I'm Chief Revenue Officer, and I'm in San Mateo, California. Thanks for spending the time this morning. I've got already a list of questions started here. If someone could verbalize Suri's question, that'd be great.
Michael, it's Elsha here. Suri would like to know what your favorite dessert is.
It's a good one to start with. I like dessert. I'm a little bit healthier these days, so I'm going to give you two answers. Probably it's a little bit of a cheat, but I love berry cobbler. But more often, I make a chocolate smoothie that is sort of a vegan chocolate smoothie with avocado and some coconut milk and a little bit of cocoa powder, some banana, and some almonds. And it kind of comes out like an ice cream milkshake, but a few more good things in it.
Oh, that sounds awesome. Okay, the next one's from Sherry. She wants to know what your takeaways were from DUS in London recently.
That's a good question. So I was recently at the DevOps Enterprise Summit in London, and we had a packed schedule of back-to-back meetings with customers and prospects. And it's a great experience because we talk to so many customers every hour on the hour that we get to have a pretty good comparison of what their experiences are, where they are in the maturity of their own DevOps experience. And I think probably the best way for me to frame it is to compare it a little bit to last year. So the same event last year, we had typically 8 to 10 customer meetings for an hour each day. And compared to last year, in the 12 months, I think it's clear that the market is way more mature, even in these 12 months. And it's really entering sort of a prime maturity moment because every single customer was educated on DevOps. I think last year there was a lot of questions about how customers move from just using source control to perhaps using source control and continuous integration. That changed this year to every customer knows about all the 10 stages of DevOps. They understand where they are in that journey. They might be at that stage of moving to CI. They might be much more mature, but they really understand how to make decisions and how to improve their culture and their process. So the tools discussion was really about enabling their business outcomes much more than a discussion about tools. So it was great to see that the market was more mature and much more consistent. I think a second observation was competition. The competition is becoming more clear. I think last year there was still a bias that most customers still thought of tools as point solutions for a single capability or a single stage. So if I said CloudBees, the customer would probably say CI. If I said New Relic, the customer would probably say monitoring. They are now starting to think more about this as an end-to-end DevOps lifecycle, and that there's solutions like GitLab that truly give them an end-to-end experience that's different, as opposed to trying to decide which point tools to integrate. There was a noticeable lack of questions about Atlassian this year. I think last year we did talk about Atlassian more. We had almost no questions about Atlassian this year. There were some more questions about Microsoft. I think Microsoft is taking a little bit more of an approach to assembling GitHub and VTSS and Azure, and the customers understood that and had questions about end-to-end. Looks like someone may have muted me. Hopefully I didn't lose too much there. The multi-cloud model made a lot more sense for them, but I think it was great that they're thinking about the competitive landscape more in end-to-end. Our brand awareness still needs help. I think when I talk to customers who know GitLab, have used GitLab or been exposed to it, they love GitLab. They love our model. They love our open source approach to the business. They love how transparent we are. They love the speed of our development, but not enough people who should know about GitLab know all of that. And I think that we still have a brand awareness challenge to overcome. And that was clear as we had sort of binary conversations in terms of how much exposure they had with GitLab. Finally, a few things about our own execution. I think an observation about our marketing team did a fantastic job running the event. It's a big event. It moves quickly. Very good audience because everyone there is there for DevOps. They want to have the kinds of conversations that we can actually help them with. We have some process things that we can improve in terms of how quickly we follow up with our customers on those conversations. But I was really happy with the work that the marketing team did. A lot of effort goes into making a 4-day event like that happen.
Okay, thanks a lot, Mike. The next one is from Natasha, and it was again about the DevOps Enterprise Summit. What was the most interesting or unique customer challenge that you heard during the customer meetings at DOES, and that we plan to help them resolve? Sorry.
That's important distinction there at the end. I think still, unfortunately, the most interesting problem is still the most common. And the most common challenge is that our customers are unable to get the business results they want anymore from integrating point solutions. And it's a conversation we've been having for several years now, so we know it well at GitLab. But I think for a lot of our customers, what they didn't think was a problem last year, they knew it was inefficient to do all the integrations. They knew it was a lot of work, has now transitioned to they understand they can't get the business results. And the business results they want is they want a faster DevOps lifecycle. They want to make that 10 times faster, not just 20% faster. And the problem that they've encountered is whether they have 20, 50, or 100 plus tools, that they can't optimize those integrations any further. And even if they do, they're looking for a 1% improvement, not a 1,000% or greater improvement in cycle time. They also want to improve security and quality. And I think that's also a change from last year, where speed was the primary question. And now I want speed, and I want to do that while also improving security and quality. And they've also realized that optimization of integration doesn't get them that. There has to be something new. And I think the problem that we plan to solve for them is, first and foremost, not doing all 10 stages at the same time. It's finding that next 1 or 2 stages that having them in a single experience does fundamentally change what they can do in their process, in their culture, or with their business outcomes. And I think that's probably the most important thing for me, is that we get the business outcome while also getting some adjacent benefit. It's not at the cost of security. It's not at the cost of quality. It's, can we improve your cycle time by a factor of 5 or 10, but at the same time actually give you more security visibility earlier. And in many ways, that's how we actually improve the cycle time. If we give you that visibility earlier, you can react sooner, you can make changes more quickly, and that does also help improve cycle time. So it's a communication challenge. I don't think we're efficient yet at completing that discussion efficiently. We have to have a conversation with our customers for them to really understand that and how we can help them. So for sales and marketing, we're trying to get better and better at how do we communicate that, ideally in writing, on a website in something short, that customers understand that combination of benefits.
Simon, you're next.
Cool. Hi, Mike. So my question is, will we increase our prices as the maturity of our stages increase?
Good question. And customers ask that as well. We don't have plans to raise our prices. Our pricing is set such that a couple of interesting things happen. As our product has gotten more mature, customers tend to move up in the tier of the product that they're using, which in effect is a higher price, but they're also getting more value when they move from, say, premium to ultimate. And last year, there were a smaller number of customers interested in making that move to the higher price tier of ultimate from premium, in part because, as you raised here, we weren't as mature as we'd like to be in enough stages in ultimate to help customers really feel comfortable with that higher price. Now, as we've improved the maturity, we still have a long way to go on all the stages in ultimate, but as certain stages have gotten more mature, we've already seen more customers choosing to move up to the higher tier, which in effect is customers opting in. And we prefer that approach. There may be in the future yet another higher tier someday if we were to create new capabilities that were completely different from what we have today. That's not in the plans at the moment. But I wouldn't be surprised that once we get Ultimate to be fully mature at some point, we've got a lot of work to do before that maturity is achieved, that there would be potential for a whole new set of capabilities that are higher up. There are questions that we consider quite often about packaging and how do we make sure that we continue to put lots and lots of value into core. And for our competitive math, we like losing to core. So when we lose deals to core, those are customers that still love GitLab. They see lots of value in core, and we just have a journey to continue with them to help them get more mature in their usage of the product. And then naturally, they will continue to move up. That's something that's important for us to keep investing in. And then Starter is important for us to make sure that we don't have customers get stuck in Starter thinking that that's the most mature they can get. I think when they move up to Starter, they typically see some benefits, and that may be a comfort to the customer that they've done something, but they don't quite understand how much better they could be if they were using Premium or Ultimate. So we do have sort of a packaging and communication challenge around Starter that we hope to find better ways to either communicate or package that over the next year. Thanks, Simon.
Okay, and the next one is me. It's been the Simon and Elsha show, but I'm hoping to finish soon. Yeah. So the next one's from me. Would you be able to give the rest of the company an overview of the force management training, which is happening in August? And we obviously recruit amazing salespeople. And what extra sort of skills will they gain from doing this large training program?
Yeah, good question. So for people who aren't familiar with this, we are working with an outside firm called Force Management to help us do a few things around enabling our sales team. So you raise a good point there. We hire a really talented team here at GitLab. And what we're trying to do is make sure that we're empowering them with the most effective, first and foremost, messaging, but then also process and tools to deliver that message to the right customers at the right time. And one of the big challenges we've had at GitLab is explaining what we do. We are not so focused that we can say we do monitoring and people know what that means. We do the entire end-to-end DevOps lifecycle. And that's proven more challenging to communicate in one sentence, two sentences than we would like. And the first step of this is a process that's already underway. And in fact, next week, we have about 15 people gathering to revamp our messaging in how we communicate what we do, not only with the words and the emphasis on end-to-end lifecycle, but also how we and when we deliver that to our customers and prospects. So that will be everything from the website to marketing collateral, sales tools, email responses, and then live conversations that we have with our customers. And I think we have a lot of people who are very good at communicating the message. It's all different, which makes it hard for us to teach someone new who just comes to GitLab for the first time how to deliver that efficiently and effectively. They have to kind of sample for themselves, and that's inefficient. So the efficient solution here is for us to take the best of all of those conversations and roll that up into the most efficient way for us to communicate that. The second thing that we're doing is we're then going to train the entire sales organization and most of the marketing organization in August on how we deliver that. And that also then leads into some sales process changes. So today, when we advance a customer opportunity, when we work with a customer that, say, is interested in GitLab, they would like to begin a trial, for example. We might give them a demo, show them the product, and we now have done something. And that's great that we've taken an action, we've done a demo, but we don't really know if the customer understood the demo, saw the value in the demo, is ready on their end to move forward. And so we might be asking to say, hey, great, let's start the proof of concept. But we might not have gotten the right feedback from the customer to know that they're even ready to do that. We want to make sure that what we're doing is really centered around the customer and what the customer wants to do. And quite often, excuse me, the simple way to measure that, it was some customer verified outcome. Instead of measuring, hey, to go from stage 2 to stage 3 in our sales process, based on us giving a demo, Instead, we would base that advancement based on something the customer has done to show that they're interested in moving ahead. So if they were, for example, to send us a written list of decision criteria that they're using to decide whether or not to purchase a new tool, that would be something that the customer is showing that they want to move forward. They have thought this through. They have a decision to make. And that would be an example of why we would then move to stage 3. They've given us written decision criteria. We now have a way to have a conversation with them about whether or not we meet all those decision criteria. Then eventually, if we've checked all the boxes and we meet all of your requirements, if they give us written confirmation again that we've met all their requirements, now we're moving forward to a proof phase, and we're moving into a discussion about how could they purchase it, because they've said, yep, we've decided you've met all of our requirements. This is great. We'd love to have this. We now need to figure out how we can commercially work together. That's a much more efficient way to have the process go with our customers. So we'll be making some of those changes and lining them up with that messaging. So it's a big investment in time, because it means taking the sales team out of the field to do the training. It means the sales team changing some of their habits, which takes time. But those of us that have done some of this in the past have found that just getting everyone on the same messaging helps make us more efficient and to close more quickly. And it also makes it much easier for the marketing team to provide more collateral, more materials to everyone, because they know it actually fits into the messaging that they're using. Where today, it may or may not fit into sort of the custom conversation that our teams are having.
Okay, thanks very much, Mike. Simon.
Sorry, Mike. I've got the next one as
well.
well.
We're going to have to put the mute button on at some point.
So it's, what have been the biggest influences or influencers in your career?
And I'm kidding. I love your questions, by the way. These are good. This is a good question. So people, ideas, and experiences. I'm going to go with, I'll start with an experience. And this was a big influence on me because I was at a company called Good Technology back in the day. And Good Technology, for some of you that weren't at the dawn of mobile messaging, this is a company that competed with BlackBerry, and both companies were bringing mobile messaging, which was originally unavailable, then came to pagers, eventually to dedicated devices that you could read your email on the go, eventually to converged devices that had telephone, other capabilities, and your email and mobile messaging in the single device. And we made a strategic decision that we thought was the right decision at the time. And it was based on our belief of the way the business model was going to unfold. And I'll explain why this is an important experience. At the time, BlackBerry made its own proprietary hardware. They made their own software that went on the device, and they had server software that ran in the back end to route the messages. And then any mobile operator like AT&T or Vodafone provided the data service. But for the customer, it was a single purchase. They could buy the BlackBerry from a mobile network operator, and it came with the software on it, the software they needed, and it just worked. We did the same thing, and it worked very effectively for customers. But the only two hardware manufacturers in the world were Good and BlackBerry, and we made very good hardware. But we thought that hardware was going to get commoditized, just like the PC industry did back in the day. And back in the day, what happened was Windows won the operating system war at that time. Mac eventually caught up, but it was a very Windows-dominated world. And there was a separate industry about PCs. And there were a long list of manufacturers. And in the US, there were companies like Dell and Compaq. There was companies like Hitachi and Fujitsu in Japan, all of which had a very similar experience running Windows. The margins for the software were great, and the margins for the hardware were terrible. But you had lots of choice in hardware. We thought that this was going to go the same way in mobile. So we knew that Dell, Kyocera, LG, a bunch of companies were going to ship BlackBerry killer hardware. And we wanted to just be the open software company that ran on all of them and have the high software margins and not worry about making the best hardware. What ended up happening was, first, a lot of those devices didn't ship. But second, it was a big challenge for us in the market because it turns out it's not what customers wanted. Customers weren't looking for hardware choice. What they wanted was a simple buying experience. They didn't want to have to glue together software on a client, software on a server from a different handset provider. It was a lot of work for IT. It was a cumbersome buying process, and it was difficult to deploy. And what happened was we were thinking about the business model more than we were thinking about the customer experience. In hindsight, if we really dug into that, what we found was customers really wanted to buy an all-in-one solution. They didn't want to have 50 choices of hardware, even though that seemed like something customers might want. It's not what they actually wanted. And it was a huge challenge for us to overcome because we should have kept making hardware and kept that single experience. And it was a good reminder to me that I remember in every day, in every company, every customer conversation is we have to always, always, always make our business decisions based on what's the right thing for the customer. What do they really want? And sometimes even if you ask them, hey, would you like hardware choice? They might say yes, but you really have to drill down. What do they really, really want? Well, what they really want is a simple to run deployment. That's what they actually wanted. And that was easiest with an all-in-one solution. And that's, an interesting analogy for GitLab because we have customers who are in the same boat. They want an end-to-end experience now. And while they have been putting together a cumbersome solution themselves for a long time, now they care much more about the business outcomes. And we have to keep doing the same thing. And I think GitLab has chosen to go a different route than the rest of the market, but that was the right decision because we were listening to customers. Thanks, Simon. Anthony.
Yeah, so I get the important question out first. So what's your preference, Coke or Pepsi?
Coke or Pepsi? I'm going to give two answers to this one as well. So first, the answer is none. I'm a weirdo in the sense that I don't drink caffeine and I don't drink soda. So I haven't had a Coke or a Pepsi in a long, long time. But long ago, when I was a kid, Dr. Pepper was actually my choice. I grew up in Texas, and that was a pretty popular drink in Texas.
Yeah, that's unforgivable. No, I'm joking. So the next question is more about sort of Africa as a sort of area for us doing business. Is there any sort of strategy about how we're sort of going to approach that, or is that sort of not really been a key focus so far?
Thank you. Good question. So Africa, similar to many markets that we don't have an in-person sales organization in many countries, we serve remotely. So with inside sales and web sales, we work with customers in across the continent of Africa. In the country of South Africa, we do have customers that we serve in person with our team from the UK. So they will make visits down there, but that's obviously not super efficient for our customers or for our team. So what we do is we prioritize each of the markets, every country, Japan, Korea, South Africa, Germany, to where's the next best, most efficient place for us to make the investment. We're going to say, we're going to hire 5 more people. What's the next best market for us to go spend time? We have a lot of demand from Germany, so we've done that. We have demand in Japan and Korea. We are in the process of building those teams right now. And the markets in Africa are no different. I anticipate that South Africa and a few countries in sub-Saharan Africa, and then a few markets in Northern Africa, we will serve more directly as we continue to invest in those markets. And the rest we will serve indirectly through both channel partners and with our remote team. And the channel partners are critical in Africa because it's geographically so spread out. Channel partners have a lot of influence, and they're really helpful to their customers because they can actually come in and do services as well. So I anticipate that as we grow our presence there, that we will be working with more channel partners.
Cool, thank you.
Looks like we have time for one more here. Paul.
Good morning, Mike. Thanks for taking the time. We do a lot of great events like DevOps Enterprise Summit, but I didn't know if there's any plans around maybe being a lead presenting company at some of these large CIO/digital leadership conferences and really present how GitLab can expedite, or enable their transformations, digital transformations. So basically thinking brand awareness for senior technology leadership.
Great question. And this is a big thing for us as a thought leader in the space. We are doing a lot more presenting at events these days. Our marketing team has been thoughtful about making sure that if we participate in an event, ideally, we are always doing that with a speaking slot. And that has been helpful for our brand awareness because we are still much better, as I mentioned earlier, at communicating what GitLab does and how we do it when we're live and in person. So we're very effective at doing that when we have a speaking slot. I think, one of the things you mentioned here is, CIO/digital leadership. We've been doing a lot of DevOps. And as we move up in those conversations, it's a slightly broader business outcome conversation than it is a product discussion. And we are working with even sort of the large analyst organizations. So think Gartner, Forrester. They have events that the CIOs and CEOs and CTOs attend that are really good ones for us to have speaking slots at as well, not just to participate, but to be a speaker. So we're going to continue to invest in those because of all the marketing things we've been doing recently, one of the best has been events. And that's a combination of the speaking and having a presence at these events where we can talk to the customers face to face.
Right. Thanks, Mike. Yeah, I think as some of these transactions get larger and larger, they're going to need senior leadership sign off. And if they're saying, who's GitLab? Why am I spending $1 million? Some awareness.
Yes, that's absolutely right. And as the investment goes up, yes, we have more visibility, but it's also great for us because we then have the conversation and we can show the business results we can get. And of all the companies I've worked at, the amount of value we can get for our customers when they make an investment in GitLab is so much bigger than the investment they make that I love having that conversation with CIOs and CTOs because it really is much bigger than they would expect.
Fantastic. Thanks, Mike.
And we're at the end of our time. Thanks, everyone.